Let me tell you something strange about privacy in the digital age. We live in a world where almost everything gets shared. Travel photos, perfect meals, work wins, couple moments, even the rough days dressed up with filters and emojis. Yet some people keep their entire life completely private online. They have accounts, they follow others, they scroll and watch quietly, but they almost never, or literally never, post anything personal. You might know someone like that. You might even be that person. And the question that always hangs in the air is why? Why would anyone choose to stay hidden when the whole internet seems to be screaming for attention? It's tempting to think they're just shy, antisocial, or simply not interested, but that's only scratching the surface. Beneath that choice lies a deep psychology, one that has everything to do with control, self-protection, authenticity, and a quiet rebellion against a culture that puts visibility above almost everything else. For a lot of people, keeping life private online isn't emptiness, it's power. It's the deliberate decision about what the world is and isn't allowed to know. Because whether we like to admit it or not, social media has quietly rewritten how we define ourselves. It rewards exposure. It celebrates constant noise. It turns every experience into a potential performance for validation. And yet the ones who stay off the stage are often the ones who see the whole play most clearly. They observe without needing to interrupt. They think before they react. They analyze before they judge. Psychologists have uncovered some fascinating patterns. People who rarely or never share personal details online tend to score higher on traits like self-control, introspection, and emotional independence. They're less swayed by social comparison and external approval. In plain terms, they aren't trying to prove who they are to anyone. They're trying to actually figure it out for themselves. In a world drowning in performances, that kind of internal focus is rare. Let's be real. Most of what we post isn't just communication. It's identity construction. Every photo, every story, every caption is quietly asking, "This is me, do you approve?" But when you stop posting, something fundamental shifts. You start detaching your sense of worth from digital likes and comments. You stop framing experiences in terms of how they'll look in a post. You begin living moments for yourself again instead of for an invisible audience. And that's the hidden psychology behind so many people who keep their lives private. They're chasing authenticity in a place that feels increasingly staged. They don't hate social media, they just can't locate themselves in it anymore. It's not about being anti-tech or anti-social. It's about refusing to shrink your entire existence down to curated highlights. Once you've seen how easily perception can be shaped and manipulated, you start treasuring the things that can't be posted at all. Silence, depth, imperfection, unfiltered truth. For some, the shift to total privacy comes after serious emotional burnout. Maybe they used to share everything, the breakfast, the gym sessions, the vacations, the breakdowns. Then one day, it stopped feeling real. They noticed that every time they posted something beautiful, an invisible pressure appeared to top it next time. They weren't living anymore, they were performing. So they faded away quietly. No big announcement. Just a slow, almost unnoticeable exit from the feed. What gets misunderstood most often is this. Not posting doesn't mean you stop feeling. It doesn't mean you don't care. Very often it means you care too much about real presence, about genuine meaning, about protecting what actually matters. There's a psychological concept called psychological ownership. It's the deep sense that something truly belongs to you, a memory, a feeling, an experience. The second you share it publicly, that ownership starts to erode. The moment becomes communal property, open to commentary, misinterpretation, even ridicule. So people who keep everything private are frequently guarding that sense of ownership over their own life. They keep their moments untouched, private, pure. And maybe that isn't withdrawal or sadness. Maybe it's a quiet, deliberate kind of freedom. Think about this for a second. When was the last time you did something genuinely meaningful and didn't feel the instant urge to share it? When was the last time you laughed until your stomach hurt, cried alone, or accomplished something huge without immediately thinking, I should post this? That reflex isn't natural, it's conditioned. It's the result of more than a decade of likes, shares, retweets, and dopamine hits, training our brains to link validation with worth. When someone steps out of that loop, it can feel like rebellion, but it's also healing. They start rediscovering what it feels like to do things purely for themselves. Cooking a meal without photographing the plate, traveling somewhere without geotagging or captioning every view, feeling something intense without the need to explain or broadcast it. In that private space, a different kind of awareness wakes up, one that doesn't require an audience to exist. But not everyone who keeps their life private is doing it from a place of complete calm. For some, it's driven by fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of being completely misunderstood. Social media has turned up the volume on a subtle anxiety psychologists sometimes call self-presentational pressure. The constant background awareness that you're being watched, evaluated, even when you're silent. For many, that feeling becomes exhausting. They worry their words will be twisted, taken out of context, or worse, completely ignored. So they pull back, not because they don't want connection, but because the price of visibility feels way too high. They want to be seen, but they want to be seen truly, not in a shallow, algorithmic way. And ironically, some of the quietest accounts online hold the loudest inner worlds. They're not absent, they're overflowing. They simply choose stillness over spectacle. There's a philosophical layer to that choice too. In a culture that screams, "Look at me," 24/7, choosing to be unseen becomes its own form of self-definition. It's a way of saying, I exist beyond what you can see, like, or comment on. They might scroll through everyone else's lives, nodding, smiling, sometimes hurting, but they rarely broadcast because they've learned something most haven't. Not every experience is meant to be witnessed by strangers. Some of the most profound things, personal growth, grief, real change, happen quietly, unposted, unwitnessed. And after you've lived through enough of those private transformations, you realize something important. Being unseen is not the same as being insignificant. It's often exactly where real identity gets built, not performed. Here's the paradox: social media was built to connect us, and yet it frequently leaves people feeling more disconnected than ever. When you keep your life private, you stop chasing digital closeness and start rebuilding actual closeness. You notice who checks in on you without needing constant updates. You learn who remembers you without reminders. That kind of raw, unbroadcast connection feels heavier, warmer, and infinitely more real. The people who stay private live in that space. They build relationships that don't require screenshots or proof. They find comfort in moments that stay unshared, They let life unfold without turning every chapter into content. A big part of it is also identity security, knowing who you are even when no one's watching. When you're at ease in your own company, you don't need likes or followers to confirm your worth. That isn't arrogance, it's peace. And here's something ironic. The same people who almost never post usually have the most interesting stories. But they save them for when you're sitting across from each other, not typing across a screen. For them, real connection isn't measured in comments or double taps. It's in shared silences, locked eyes, laughter that doesn't need witnesses. These are the people carrying entire worlds inside them, processing deeply, observing constantly, understanding quietly. They don't need the planet to applaud their existence. They just need to live it. And maybe, just maybe, in a world starving to be seen, their privacy isn't a flaw, it's a mirror. A reminder that not everything meaningful has to be shared. That sometimes the most human thing you can do is keep something entirely for yourself. You know what's really striking? The longer someone stays private online, the more their entire perception of the world begins to change. Colors feel richer, time slows down, conversations land deeper. It's almost like stepping away from the constant noise makes reality feel real again. When you stop performing, you finally start experiencing. There's a quiet beauty in walking through life without needing proof of every single step. You're not thinking about lighting, angles, or the perfect caption. You're just there, fully alive inside the moment instead of outside it looking in. That's something social media almost never lets us do anymore. But the psychology runs even deeper than preference. It's tied to how our brains handle validation. Every time you post and get attention, likes, comments, hearts, your brain releases dopamine, the exact same chemical tied to reward and addiction. Over months and years, we start craving that hit. We begin thinking in postable experiences instead of real ones. Now picture someone who consciously opts out of that cycle, someone who chooses to break the dopamine loop on purpose. That isn't apathy, that's discipline. It takes real self-awareness to resist something engineered to keep you hooked. People who keep their lives private often have a strong internal locus of control, a psychological term, meaning their sense of worth and happiness comes from inside, not from outside approval. They don't need the digital chorus chanting, "You're enough," to actually believe it. Even more interesting, research shows that people who take extended breaks from posting, or even just heavily consuming social media, frequently report measurable improvements in emotional stability and overall life satisfaction. When your identity stops being reflected back to you through screens all day, it becomes solid, it becomes yours. You're no longer editing life into bite-sized, approval-ready pieces. You're living the whole messy, beautiful, uncut version. And maybe that's the real rebellion, staying whole in a world that rewards fragments. Of course, staying private isn't always peaceful. Sometimes it hides exhaustion. For many, social media started as a place to find connection and ended up feeling like a slow, emotional drain. There's a low-key fatigue that builds when you're constantly surrounded by everyone else's highlight reels while you're still figuring out your own behind the scenes. You start comparing without meaning to. You start questioning your worth even when you know better. Eventually, some people step away, not out of anger, but out of self-preservation. They realize they don't owe the world a performance. They don't owe anyone an explanation for going quiet. And they don't have to keep proving they're happy just so people will believe it. That's one of the unspoken truths of this generation. We've confused being seen with being valuable. We assume that if no one notices, it doesn't count. But real meaning doesn't need witnesses. Some of the moments that shape you most will happen with zero audience. No photos, no captions, no likes, just you. And maybe that's exactly what people who keep their lives private understand better than anyone. They know privacy isn't loneliness, it's intimacy with yourself. When you stop broadcasting every thought, you start hearing your own thoughts again. You reconnect with the parts of you that got buried under all the noise, your quiet dreams, your unspoken fears, your inner compass. In today's world, that feels almost spiritual. It isn't retreat, it's coming home. Sure, there are still hard days, moments when you wonder if staying silent makes you invisible, if you're falling behind while everyone else is busy performing progress. But over time you notice something beautiful. Your worth doesn't vanish when no one's looking. It stays right there, steady like the soft hum of a quiet room after the storm passes. And maybe that's what real confidence actually looks like. Not the loud online declaration, but the calm certainty that exists offline. People joke, "Oh, if you didn't post it, did it even happen?" But the honest answer is that the things that shape you deepest almost never make it online. Your real growth, your heartbreaks, your private wins, your quiet kindnesses, they live in memory, not in feeds, and maybe that's enough. When psychologists talk about authentic self-expression, they stress congruence, the alignment between who you are inside and what you show the world. But in the age of filters and curation, that alignment gets warped constantly. You start living as a version of yourself built for approval. So when someone chooses radical privacy, it can be their way of staying congruent, of protecting that fragile truth between their inner life and outer presentation. They don't need the whole internet to witness their feelings, to know those feelings are real. They don't need to photograph every sunset to remember how it felt. They live fully, quietly. Here's the paradox again. The people who live quietly often feel life the most intensely. They aren't distracted by performing it. They take in details others miss, the way light shifts across a wall, the pause right before someone speaks, the sound of distant laughter. They're present, and presence is the rarest thing in a world built on fractured attention. But that same presence can make them misunderstood. People label them distant, mysterious, cold. Look closer though, and their silence isn't empty. It's depth. It's the calm that arrives when you no longer need to explain yourself to be understood. There's a quiet confidence that comes from not needing to be known by everyone, just understood by a few. That's what people who keep their lives private often know best. They understand that not every truth belongs to the crowd, that some pieces of you deserve to stay untouched by algorithms, trends, and opinions, because the moment something goes public, it stops being only yours. It belongs to interpretation, to judgment, to the algorithm, and maybe some moments are too sacred for that. So the next time you notice someone who never posts anything personal, don't assume they're hiding. Maybe they're just living. Maybe they've found peace in the quiet corners of existence, the ones the blue light never reaches. Maybe they're the ones who remembered what so many of us have forgotten, that not being seen doesn't mean being alone, that silence doesn't mean emptiness, that sometimes the truest version of who you are is the part you never post. Because in the end, we weren't made to be performances. We were made to be people, And the people who keep their lives private remind us of that. Every quiet, unfiltered, beautifully invisible day